We welcome you to the Priscilla R. Tyson Cultural Arts Center for our conversations and coffee on this third day of April 2025. And we've all had a good night's sleep, right? No one was awakened by Mother Nature about 2:30, 3 o'clock. No. Or you could go back to sleep, Melanie, as you said. I'm Ellen O'Shaughnessy, coordinator of the program, and we're delighted to have with us today as our guest artist, Melanie Cornelius, sketcher of urban scenes in watercolored pencil and ink. Melanie's been a resident of the Columbus area since 1982. She's a graduate of the Washington University in St. Louis and Capital University Law School here in Columbus. Melanie has also taken classes at the Columbus College of Art and Design. She's one of the 3 administrators of Urban Sketchers Columbus, which is a chapter of Urban Sketchers International. Melanie was a semifinalist in the Conway Art Competition and received a presidential scholarship at Washington University that you shared. We're just delighted your parents, huh? It's great. She shifted gears to become a lawyer in college, but returned to art as a hobby in 2016, joining the Columbus Urban Sketchers chapter in 2017. She shares that she loves to introduce urban sketching to others, like ourselves, regardless of artistic experience, to capture the world one drawing at a time. Today, she will share with us a body of work and its evolution, and she welcomes your questions about urban sketching and the artistic process. And you know the word Latin, process, processus, it means go from town to town to town to town. And you have indicated that's where you are. And we are so delighted that one of the places you're visiting is here at the Cultural Arts Center, Melanie. So take it away. We're so glad to have you.
Well, it's delightful to be here and to see everybody and to have this opportunity to share some of the work that I've created. It's really out of control, as you'll see. I cut down, I've got a number of pieces here in the video that I'll show you as we go along, but I'm actually going to talk a little bit about my work. First of all, I noticed immediately in coming to the Cultural Arts Center, I noticed there's a statue of a cow, and I was all excited because cows have often been a subject of my work. Now, that's not very urban, but I was thrilled. You know, it's kind of like the Cincinnati Pigs, if you saw the Cincinnati Pigs. So, but anyway, these are some of my favorites starting out of cows. You'll see a lot of them. Oh, we're not going to take any phone calls. I didn't think to turn mine off. But anyway, so this is a fairly early piece in my Renaissance, and I'd like to explain how I got here. I had done some work, okay, on and off in the 35 years since I left undergrad, but not a lot, until one day I had explained to my companion, Trisha Valentine, who's here, raise your hand, that I was an artist, but you don't really, when you have no work to show, no work up on your walls, no sketchbooks, it's hard to kind of persuade someone that that's true. So I'm not sure, but there was a certain amount of cynicism. What I've learned since then is we are all artists. Every one of you in this room is an artist. You may not know it, but it's simply a matter of quantity and time and practice. And your vision, which is a visual version of the world, becomes manifest. So kind of what I am attempting to do besides show cows, here, we'll show a few, is kind of talk a little bit about my work, answer any of your questions. We'll move on from cows to more cows. Here's more cows. This is the Angus cow, and in particular, an Angus cow located near my house because there's a field of cows, and I love watching the cows. So I thought they were kind of cute and fun. Now, I admit that's not very urban either, but I do like this piece. More cows. Okay. You know, they used to say when I came here that Columbus was a cow town. No, nobody says that anymore. But I remember, this is my testament that we are still. Okay, and finally, another cow. A favorite cow of mine, the orange cow.
What did you learn at Columbus College of Art and Design in terms of this drawing, sketching, and then having it connect?
Well, it's the technical skills that you pick up in taking classes, so you can create something that's in your head to communicate.
Mhm.
Okay, and that's what I think artists do. This is a water buffalo for those of you who are curious. What artists are able to do is create something out of the future or the past so that other people can see it and understand it. So it comes kind of out of an illustration, but then it becomes what's in your head, right? And so people can see for the first time what's in your head, and maybe they like what's in your head, and maybe they don't, but for the first time. So animals. Then I got into horses. I grew up around horses, even though I grew up in Chicago. But occasionally we went and we rode horses, so I have a fond spot for them. Another horse. They're hard. It's hard to get horses to stand still and be painted or drawn. So those of you who would like to do that, good luck. And then, I don't know why that's appearing here.
Well, maybe it's
Hang on a
coming
minute.
back because it has such a personality.
That's right. That's right. And then one day, well, I decided to take a course with the author of Mastering Composition. And he's an internationally known professor of art. And I did that. And then he focused on technique, okay? So I didn't know much about technique. But this, who draws a rat? Okay, but what I learned from him is the mark matters, to pay more attention to the marks that you're putting down to create a piece of work. And so this was an exercise in doing precisely that. If you notice the hair on this and the direction of the hair, that took a lot of time. This was a pencil drawing. You'll also note there is a Chinese signature, which is I actually had made. It came from China. And on the works that I was doing then, if I really, really liked the work, I would end with the signature stamp, which they use. So anyway, fortunately, I'm not really into rats or mice, so this is the only one. So we'll get off of this one, and back to horses. A lot of what I do is ink, okay? Ink is scary because you can't make mistakes, right? Well, you can, but you have to kind of incorporate them in. And it's very convenient. If you're out in the city or the country and you want to draw something with an ink pen, suddenly it's there. These are done with a black ink pen called Pitt, and it's permanent waterproof, so you can do watercolor over it. Very, very convenient. Again, getting the horses to stand still is something of an art. All right, back to another rodent. This was early in my journey back, and I just thought the squirrel was kind of cute, so I did this portrait of the squirrel. Then I switched animals to alpacas. I thought alpacas were llamas, but they're not, apparently. Yes?
Do you take pictures to draw from? Because you're saying that, the animals are hard to get them to stand still and do it. So do you take a picture and then draw it?
By and large, no. No, I go somewhere where there is an animal and try and get the animal to stand still. It doesn't work. Reference photos later to finish up, because these are not, some of them are quick sketches and they don't take much time. And some of them, you can imagine, took hours and hours to do. The only exception to that was during the pandemic, when we couldn't go anywhere. And then the way I passed the pandemic was I would go places on Google Earth based on a common theme, okay? In addition to urban sketching and the urban sketching group, and if any of you are interested, we have an event. We're going out to Dublin to sketch this Saturday. It's really fun. People of all levels. But I also connected with a group called Sketching Every Day very early in this journey. It's a closed Facebook group. There are about 263 people who sketch, paint, and draw to prompts or individually, inspired, whatever, every day. And it's amazing when you do something every day as a practice, you begin to improve, kind of despite yourself, okay? So there are a lot of prompts available online. But yes, this is a alpaca that I drew. It really existed in real life. I thought it'd be fun to go to an alpaca farm. They don't stand still either. But I think alpacas are absolutely adorable. There was also a cat. You'll see the cat. There's the cat. The cat was at the alpaca farm. So I drew the cat. Now, this is completely done on site, okay? So it was done very quickly. All right, we move from that to observing the world, the people around us, and people you pass every day. You pay no attention. Like, why is this man sitting down on steps waiting for a COTA bus? He didn't move the whole time. That's the nice thing about people who are texting. They don't move. So they make great samples and models, whether they want to or not. This is actually, for those of you who are from Columbus, you may recognize the stop, which is in front of the Athenaeum, okay? So we moved from that to this was one done, I believe, out of my imagination, and I was experimenting with color. It's not particularly good in terms of perspective, but I did like the colors that turned out. So there's something in everything. You don't like your work? Sometimes you like your work. Most of the time I didn't. 60% of the time I'd get done with a piece and hated it, okay? But I liked some things. So what I liked here, the colors, and I also like the roofs. I love the architectural elements that are out there, and you'll see some real live drawings that I've got in this collection. You also can sketch and draw at any event, okay, wherever you go. And this was picking up funeral flowers. And this was a place where they sold the flowers, and I was stuck in the car. So I started to draw, and one thing led to another, and we've got this full painting eventually. Then I really got into church architecture and religious architecture. So you'll see this is an early piece done in colored pencil, okay? This took a lot of time. But I liked the way it turned out. I liked the colors and whatever. And then I went to ink. So here's an ink sketch. I can't tell you which church this was. This was done on location, very real. This was during a concert down at St. Mary's Church, pre-concert. And I was really intrigued by the beautiful interior of that church, if you've not been down there, accompanied by the music. And it led to a series of drawings to try and portray musicians and music in the visual meeting. You know, I set that goal, so we'll see. Back to churches, colored pencil here. And then I began to shift into sort of my imagination from church architecture to kind of create a creative fairyland type building. So that's what I did here in color pencil. And back to churches. Sense of theme here, right? And this one is a sketch of Trinity Church downtown. And I like it a lot. That was done entirely on location. I thought that I was confining myself to too few religions. So I decided I would tackle Buddhism. And Buddhist architecture is really, really hard to draw. So you won't see a lot of them. But this is one. This is on black paper with white ink. And then this is the Islamic call to prayer. I happen to like this very much. I wanted to be cognizant of the fact that they don't do figurative art and be respectful of that, but also get the image of the people who are engaged in the rituals of Islamic prayer. And the very shiny floor. It also looks very uncomfortable. I'm not of that faith, but it looks very uncomfortable. But they're all doing it in unison, and I think it's incredibly beautiful with the Spanish architecture.
Talking about the Buddhist one being so hard to draw, what do you find that's so difficult about it?
It's very complex in terms of composition. It's very, very intricate. So I didn't do a lot of them because it was so tough. It's really tough. I have been, there is a beautiful Buddhist temple on the east side of Columbus, which is incredible if you've not seen it. It's, I believe it's Laotian Buddhism, and they have built a temple. Most people have never seen it alongside the road there. And I also went to a Hindu temple in Los Angeles, California, that was unfortunately vandalized about 2 weeks ago, pretty badly. Just beautiful architectural elements of people connecting to their concepts of the divine. Now, I moved from that, all those religious elements, into government, near and dear to my heart, and experimenting with techniques. This is a wash with the Parliament building on top of it. And obviously I wasn't at that Parliament when I did it, but I did have a lot of fun learning about the architecture and drawing it, which is incredibly complex. And the wash turned out really well, right? It's a single color. So I was thrilled with it. I like this one a lot. All right, moving on to that. Anyone recognize this? It's from Columbus. What is it? Any guesses?
We're sitting right here.
It's the Fire Museum, right? Now, if you've not been to the Fire Museum, it's great. It's a old fire station, and they have all the equipment in it. I did some of the equipment too, but I haven't included that in the presentation today. But there's always cars. because it's on 4th Street. So there's always a lot of cars. And I like donuts. I love Buckeye Donuts in particular. That's the Buckeye Donuts. I also got donuts, so there was that. I had a lot of fun with this, and I love how it turned out. Again, a quick sketch on location. And then, of course, eventually, if you're hungry like I am now, you go in some of these places, and people sit around, and you can draw them. So you'll see a lot of those in this presentation. Then I wanted to get into drawing portraits, and so one of the things I want you to notice about this is the absence of line. It's stippling, large part creating the image without creating the line. It takes a long time, but you can get quite a likeness given enough time. Yes?
I know so little about this, but what do you mean by that you don't use a line or there isn't a line? What does that mean?
Many people, when they're drawing, define what they are seeing by line. And I deliberately try not to do that, okay? Because there's so much volume in things, and many things are defined by negative space. The reason you recognize what an object is because of the negative space around it. But we think, intellectually, I think, the most part, of line as the best way. I try to avoid that. And I hadn't really realized how much I was avoiding it until I put these together. Okay, so I'm going to do the form first. The line is last, usually, the defining line, so that the focus is on the substance and body of whatever it is I'm creating. Okay, so that's what I think you see in this. You'll see in some others. Not that many people do stippling because it takes a long time. It's consisted largely of dots, so it takes a long time. Any of you heard of paint outs? Seen paint outs? Know what that is? It's ostensibly people gather right at the beginning, and you register, and they stamp your work, and then you go out into the atmosphere, into the community, and draw or paint, and come back, and everybody shows their work at the end. And this is my first paint out project that I did, and I went to the Don Scott Airfield with watercolor and gouache. So it turned out, I love this one. The photo is not quite do it justice. It's mainly gray. It shows him as blue here.
I mean, is that a...
That took the better part of a day. Yeah. The ink drawings that I do, this is probably took about 3 or 4 hours. This is the Hilliard Historical Park, and it was done on site. Then this is out of my imagination of a woman who is rolling some dough out. I do not like it, but I threw it in here just so you could kind of see the process. And again, I'm trying to define objects by planes and substance with lines last. Okay, so that perhaps is a bit unusual. I hadn't quite learned it when I did this portrait of a niece on, I think it was on her wedding day, with the flowers and so forth, technique. And then I went back to these character studies, and I really like to do character studies, and I used to take the bus all the time. And what I like about the bus is people are sitting there, they can't move, right? It's better than cows. Cows can move. But you have to be really fast because a lot of people don't like to be drawn. And what I found in doing these is if you were to see these people, they turned out to be pretty good likenesses, okay? So I've done a whole series of them. trees don't move either. This is from my backyard, and it turned out pretty well. I was experimenting with composition and creating depth here, and it turned out I like it. So now if you met these guys, if they walked in here today, you would recognize them. They sat there a long time. It was 45 minutes. So I had a lot of opportunity to draw them. This is colored pencil in my little notebook. This was a woman during the pandemic at the hospital. She was entranced in her book. She got annoyed with me. She got up and left. She moved in the room. So I was like, okay. Stippling. This is a portrait done entirely with dots. Okay. You have to be patient to do stippling, but it's really fun. And I think it contains a lot of depth and substance to it. Again, no lines.
Stippling subjects the same woman? Is that the
No,
same-
they're all different. They're all different.
Similar.
It's hard to do stippling and have a impatient model. So friends and family work best for this, for any of you that might be tempted to try it. That's not the case at the Western and Southern Open, however. This is I think this is Coco Gauff, I believe, who we had the wonderful opportunity to go and actually see. This is my tribute to Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who means a lot, crossing over from, obviously, the Supreme Court onto my palette, and I did this to honor her at her death. So I sketch a lot at funerals. It passes the time, and I don't have to talk to all these people that I don't know. And what I found, I thought that was rude initially, but what I found is that people would look at what I was drawing and they wanted copies of it, that it was a memory. That's one of the things about urban sketching that I've learned. In doing sketching, you remember the emotions, where you were, what the circumstances were. It's a memory aid for those of us that are ailing in our memory. And you can kind of experience it again, because time, of course, always changing, especially around Columbus. Every time I come down here, I don't recognize the city because there's buildings where I've never seen them before. This was a bus sketch. This is what she looked like. She had a ponytail, and I found that to be intriguing. And I did it on the bus. This was in a Starbucks, I believe, when a friend of mine went out to, he went up to get his order. And what I remember about that day, this is in probably February, March of 2020. How can I tell? He had a cold. He was really, really sick. His nose was dripping. He didn't have a mask. We didn't know about COVID then, or I wouldn't have been there, because 2 weeks later they shut the city down after I did this. And that's what I remember from this. Thoughts, emotions, right? Those of you who are artists already and realize it, you know what I'm talking about. You remember that moment. This was watching very recently. This was on the 18th of March of this year, watching the rescue rocket, the Dragon, that was going to get those astronauts who were stranded, and they kept scrapping it. So I was like, this is terrible. These people are up in space for 8 months, or however long they were up there, and they can't get back, and their only shot at getting back is this rocket, and they can't get it off the ground. And I imagined what that would be like, because they thought this was 8 days. Can you imagine 8 days and then you're stuck for 8 months? That's horrible. So it's my tribute to them, done in ink. This is what happens when you sit on a bus on 315 and the traffic stops. Well, I started noticing how people change lanes because we were stopped, actually, is the honest to God truth. We were stopped. And I turned that into this drawing. Now, why do I have this drawing? It's just simple. Why would I put it in this? It's actually tremendously important to my artistic development because I put it up online. And one of the people that saw it was an illustrator with The Guardian in London, internationally known. He also had been an illustrator for the New York Times. And he wrote me because he really liked this and he liked my work and he wanted to see my work. I was like, why would anyone want to see my work? I was like, do you have more? I was like, wow. But he was very encouraging to me. And so I kept doing it. It was kind of a habit and an addiction at that point. I really like cars. This was a car in a garage that was very, very old. And I did this, and at the time I really liked it, and now I don't like it. But that's the way things go. I was there with a cat. You see, I remember this cat. I remember the cat because I like the cat, but I'm allergic to the cat. So I'm sneezing while trying to create ostensibly a portrait of this vehicle before it's gone. This is the outside of the Great Southern Motel. I was stuck there waiting for the bus. You didn't know you could get so many things just by waiting for the bus and looking around with a pen in hand. I try to keep a sense of humor. And when I was growing up, how many of you read Highlights magazine? Okay. My favorite thing with Highlights magazine was they had hidden pictures, right? I see some of you artists are nodding. Yes. It was our introduction to art. I did a whole alphabet of hidden pictures, okay? The only clue you had was the letter of the alphabet. So there is a boxer. You see the boxer. This was very early. There's also a bunny. You see the bunny? There's another dog, which isn't a boxer, and I don't know what it is. There are butterflies. There's bells. There's a barn. And I thought, well, that's kind of fun. I'd like to do the whole alphabet. That's metallic gouache, okay, that you see with there, and it's just as shiny in reality. I didn't bring the whole alphabet. That would bore you to tears, and that's not my intent. But anyway, I did bring a few of them. This is C, the letter C. So if you look at this, there's a cat, definitely a cat. Cat tails. There's a cap. The flowers began with the letter C, and I don't know what they are.
Chrysanthemum?
What?
Chrysanthemum?
Could be. Yeah. You see how this goes? We're all adults here. We're playing the game. All right. And there's a crow, incidentally. Yeah. For those of you that see the crow. Clouds there. And then we have D. D, that's a Dodge, okay, in case you were wondering. A dinghy. There's a dinghy. And I don't know what else. A dock. Yes, a dock. There you go. A dairy.
Yeah.
A Datsun. There we go. Daisies. Yeah. A dolphin. Yeah, there's a dolphin. You get it. You get it. This is fun. So if you don't know what to draw, try this, right? Okay. E, we've got an elk, an eagle. There was a tree, elm, the elm tree. That's an elm tree. I couldn't think of a lot of things for E, so evergreen. There you go.
For you.
It was an E. It was an E. So, okay. And then this was K. K is a kite. And there you see the kite. And then there is apparently a bird with the letter K, a kayak, keys, kettle. Looks like cake, but that's not how you spell it.
Kennel.
Koala, a kangaroo. Yeah, yeah. So you can imagine, going through and doing everyone, yeah. And it put your thinking cap on. Even now, as the observer, you're looking at that thinking, well, there's something else in there.
How is it that you could get us to become sketchers and artists? What can you do for us? Those of us who are not formally artists.
Well, that's easy. The easiest way is to begin. We are all artists. We are all artists. Yeah, you are. You just haven't developed it, okay? If you can write with a pen, you can start. And, I got carried away with the pen. To start, it maybe starts with doodles or a little cartoon to make fun of things. That's, obviously something that I have a lot of fun with. There is a lot of humor in what I am bringing to you today. And you keep doing it over and over and over again. And I think the secret is really repetition. It's repetition. It's sketching every day. It's beginning to look at things. It's asking the opinion of others. Do you think I got it or not? Right? What bothers you about this? And they'll tell you. You have to still yourself a little bit for criticism, but that's the way to improve. And I think if, going back to this alphabet series, as we're getting farther along in the alphabet, I think they're getting better. Okay? Which kind of shows you the learning opportunities. What do you see there?
Yeah.
The Iditarod, right? I love the dogs, the way the dogs turned out. Inuit, right? The people of the Iditarod. Ice fishing. How many of you have ice fished? Anyone? I tried to ice fish at O'Shaughnessy Dam. I nearly lost my life because it was snowing that day. We got stuck in the snow and they called a tow truck, and the tow truck came and got stuck. And then a tow truck came to tow the tow truck away and left. So, yeah, things you remember, right? Illustrated. N. There's a Newfoundland. There are nuns. Nurses. There is a name of the animal that's striped there that escapes me.
Yeah, the net, that's a good one.
What is it? Oh, the net. I forgot the net. Yeah. The stuff you forget over time, right? This is P. I have no idea why I drew an organ for P. I don't know. Stuff you can't figure out later. What? Yeah. Performance. There we go. See? You got it. Pipes. Piano. Anything else?
Purple.
Purple. Yeah, purple. Packages, yeah. Now, in all honesty, then I went on a streak of drawing organs. So, and organists, because I love organs, kind of stream of consciousness here. I love going to organ concerts, and I'll tell you why. You sit there with the pipe organ, and the vibrations of the low notes they course through you. And I got the idea that I wanted to begin to paint or draw vibrations. I kid you not, okay? Sure, you can draw an object, but vibrations in music, how do you put music into art, right? Well, I liked it because I would go and draw in performances and also in dress rehearsals of musicians. You'll see more of those in a moment. I wanted to share this. This is very similar to what Monet did, okay? This is actually a live drawing that I did of the ponds at the Chase Credit Facility in Lewis Center. And if you try and go up there, they won't let you on. This was during the pandemic. And you're technically trespassing, so they're coming after you. So you didn't have a lot of time to get this done. So I did use some photographs, and then I got out of there quickly. This was about the same time. This is a walk in the forest. And then my imagination, okay, illustration. I did a whole series of people in the desert out of my head. So, and experimented with the watercolors. This is a piano. This was a piece that I did during my mastering composition course. And what is unique about this is to become very, very aware of the marks that you're making. Now, Ian teaches, and I do not, but he wants you to chisel your pencil. Okay? And said it was really important to making marks. And that's what I did to create this. It took a long time. This took a long time. It's graphite. But I like the way it turned out. And you can tell I like the way it turned out because I have the Chinese signature stamp on it. All right.
Response?
That was beautiful.
What, you liked it? Here, I'll put it back.
That looks like that took such a long time, and it's very good.
Is there actually 88 keys on it?
What was the question?
Is there 88 keys on the 200?
Oh, there probably was. There probably was. I haven't counted them. I found actually the more intriguing part wasn't the keys. Okay, it was the music. Okay, the music had a plastic binder on it, and the notes. Right, it's real. Okay.
While it has an impressionistic style, there's an exactitude about your drawing in that. How do you do that?
That I couldn't tell you. I think that may be a carryover of my other career. Some of you that know me for that, because I'm a lawyer, it's like every little detail matters. You can really drive people crazy with that. But I think it translated in this piece. So we have a mic problem?
Guess so. Huh?
Okay, well, we'll just speak up. We'll speak up if you have. All right, so now I began to explore musicians, okay? And the person who stood up is, of course, the conductor, so he was easy. But then I went into my head to rock musicians, because most of us grew up listening to rock and roll of some sort. And what I wanted to portray in these is the noise and the sound, okay, in the drawing itself, and the audience, which makes it all the more pleasurable when you're in a concert, right? Yes.
I noticed a lot of your paintings has got this certain beautiful blue in it. Do you like working in that shade of blue?
I do a lot of work in blue.
Does that give you a certain feeling, an emotion?
It probably does. I think it has more to do with B flat. I don't know how many of you are musicians. Anyone musicians?
I play timpani.
Timpani? Okay. B flat. I listened to an NPR program all about B flat, if you can imagine it. And B flat associates with blue for well-being. And in fact, that they were finding that people who listen to B flat and music in B flat, there's something about that vibration having a positive effect, a healing effect on the human body. They did a whole study of that in connection with people suffering with AIDS and B flat. That translates for me into blue. Okay, so I do a lot in blue, to answer your question.
Any other colors that you like?
I do a lot in brown, earth tones. Yeah, I do a lot in earth tones. Obviously, when you're doing portraits of people, it helps, to have, some flesh tone that reflects the composition of the person. But yeah, definitely use a lot of blue instead of black. Okay, so you'll see that. This is gouache, which is transparent watercolor. And I love the series that I did on rock musicians. Okay, here, stippling. Remember, I was talking about stippling and vibration. You begin to sense it. Being on stage, what it's like with the lights, like we have lights here, they're bright. What that is like from behind the scenes. And then our rock musician, right? If you've been to a rock concert, this guy, right? He's really into the music. There's a lot of power, there's a lot of sound. How do we get that into a visual form? That's what you see here. And finally, the applause at the end. And I love this guy. So, other questions? Yes.
Going back, I don't know, about like 10 slides where you had a walk in the woods, you had a lot of blue, like the shadows there.
Yes.
And I don't know, because I walk in the woods, but I don't see the blue, so I thought, well, maybe that's your way to show, add something to the actual scene.
It's interesting you say that. Because I think we assume that everyone sees color the way we do. But maybe they don't. This really came to me in the very early days of the pandemic. And I went outside and I looked around and I saw colors and I heard things that I had never heard in my life during that period of time. And it continued, it's not completely gone, okay? So I think that there is an element of all of us responding to our environment with color that we assume other people share, but maybe they don't, okay? Maybe they don't. Which makes it even more important to get it down on paper. Okay? You have a unique message, a unique way of viewing the world. No one will understand it unless you put it down for others to see. That's what I've tried to do here in this presentation, to show you what I see. And yes, I see a lot of blue. And then blue is also associated with depression. I've dealt with depression too. So that may be another reason you see blue in my work.
Kind of iridescent blue. Or
Yes.
luminescent. I mean,
Yes. Yes. It's
glows.
almost a fluorescent. Yeah. It's almost a fluorescent. Now, I hesitate to say this. Well, go ahead. There are some people who say that blue is very disturbing, disturbs your sleep. Have you ever heard that? That you shouldn't have blue light in your sleeping rooms. I don't know if that's true, but I will say this. When I am healthy artistically, I am creating things at 2 in the morning. Okay? Between 2 and 4. That's when maybe that has something to do with blue or whatever. It doesn't allow you a lot of sleep. But yes.
While you're working on your art, has you ever felt like it's been down to your studio or work area, and then all of a sudden it's like, where did 10 hours go?
Yes.
I mean, you
Yes.
look at the clock, where did 12 hours go? And you're down there.
That's another aspect to the creative process, I think. When you're in the zone, because it only happens, I think, when you're in the zone. Time has no meaning anymore, which can be dangerous if you have someplace you need to be. For me, the way I rationalize this, and it probably isn't a rational process anyway, we are connecting in the creative process to something far beyond us, where there is no time. Okay? And the more you develop the skill of drawing or painting, the more you can kind of explain that to other people who cannot see it. So, yeah, I hope that addresses that. That's being in the zone and being in a timeless space, connecting with creative energy. And apparently for me, creative energy comes in the middle of the night at 2 o'clock in the morning. And then there are other people you find, they're up then, you can talk to them. There are a lot of people who are up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Some of you may be in this audience. Yeah.
Always up at 2 o'clock.
Oh, tell us, are you an artist?
No.
No, your creativity though goes in other areas, huh?
So can I ask you, what does urban mean to you? Because you're showing us all different types of drawings, paintings,
Yes.
what have you. So you're saying that you're an urban.
Urban sketching. Did my mic just cut up? No, you can hear that. Urban sketching has a manifesto that we draw what we see. Okay, so you draw on site as opposed to photographs. We go places, we look for interesting things that appeal to us, that we see and nobody else sees. Okay. Now I moved from that to something called plein air. Any of you do plein air here? That's sketching and painting outside. Okay, so it's very weather dependent, obviously. The last thing when I was undergoing artistic training, they said don't use photographs because you lose the sense of three-dimensionality with the photographs. So I don't use photographs by and large. During pandemics, that'd be an exception. All right. I was really into drawing motion and fire in this one. Okay. I wanted to convey visually heat. That took some time to figure out how to do that. I don't know whether I did or not. If you feel the heat, then I succeeded. If you think this is a needless abstract, then I didn't. I failed. But like I said, one of the things that I've gotten used to is things that I like, other people don't necessarily like. So that's what I was trying to do, whether I did it or not. And then I experimented with different materials. This was at Alum Creek Lower Dam, and it was with oil pastel. So I tried oil pastel. Conceptually, you can't really see the image, but I loved the material. I thought it was great. I had a lot of fun with it. And just a few others as we finish up. And questions, I invite your questions or whatever. I brought some of my original work so you can see, yeah, for real, these do exist. It is a very small cache of some of the things that I created. And historically, I'll just point out that I brought a watercolor there on the left. And next to it is a violinist who did a concert to benefit the people of Ukraine. And so I got an opportunity to do that. Some landscapes, cows, and then up here, some full-scale paintings that I did. These are watercolor. One is a still that exists out of Dayton inside that I got to see. Some colored pencils, again in blue, right? Some more blue. And then there is a watercolor work here from Le Chatelaine in Dublin inside because it was raining and it was 22 degrees and nobody wanted to sketch or paint outside. And then my most favorite of all, because I love drawing cars, was drawn at a museum there. So you can take a look. And that, I think, is a good insight into the idea of doing away with line. So any other questions? I believe we're finishing
Your
up.
portraits are very interesting. Are you planning to paint or draw more?
Well, I do this every day. And during the winter, I go and I do portraits of people with some degree of success and sometimes not. You never know when you start a portrait if it's going to turn into a likeness, but it really doesn't matter. In the end, it's the process. So you're all artists.
So Melanie, are you calling us to have a sketchbook with us for every day?
I think it's a great
Okay.
process.
All right,
I
that's
urge
a
all of you.
wonderful call.
You buying, Ellen? You buying the sketchbooks?
I'm getting one for sure. You know, and I happen to know that Melanie is going to provide one for me
Yes,
a week from
yes,
now.
I am. I am.
And with no confidence do I have to sketch until you call me to it. And why not? Why not? What a gift that you give us. And calling us to some self-confidence that those of us who are not formally artists are really meant to be about because of the creativity within our very being. Huh.
Mhm. Yes.
So thank
Yes.
you.
Yes.
Thank you for your
So-
mentoring and your presence and your encouragement, Melanie.
I will share this as we close. This is the first full-scale showing that I have had in my adult life. So I thank you for being such a kind audience.
Oh,
Most people have never seen this work.
oh.
So thank you.
How wonderful. How wonderful. And thank you all, friends of Melanie, for being here and artists who are part of the Cultural Arts Center.